City Public Museum has added a new exhibit to their permanent gallery, and it shows the history of Sioux City sports. After years in the making, the Sioux City Sports exhibit was completed a few months ago. The exhibit is designed to show the history and diversity of Sioux City athletes and sports programs. A couple of the people you can find being honored in the exhibit is former Chicago Bull and Sioux City West graduate Kirk Heinrich and Sioux City East graduate and Olympian Shelby Houlihan. The exhibit can show the history of Sioux City sports in a way never seen before.
Well, sports is something that always just tends to bring people together. It tends to be a really popular topic, something that everybody can relate to, but it's still interesting to see how it changes over time. That's part of why you see a lot of the touchable exhibits along the reader rails here, just to show how they changed.
The exhibit is a way to bring people interested in sports to the museum and to share the local sports history with people who may not be familiar with athletes who competed on the national and world stage.
So yeah, I think it can serve twofold. It can serve both the people who are really into sports who may not come to a museum, as you said, but also people who would be here anyway. This gives them a new experience.
Museum officials anticipate an interactive kiosk to be put in the exhibit in the next month or two that would allow for a more immersive experience.